Welcome to Trauma Recovery Anonymous, the podcast. My name is Richard, and I am your host. As you know, I work with people who suffer with past trauma memories, especially those who are misdiagnosed with past trauma memories, some 390 million people, trying to give them a solution, since they understand that before they went for therapy, what they were doing wasn't working. And going for therapy, they found out they were misdiagnosed, so they can't stay where they are. So they're trying to find some other solution. And I believe the solution is a spiritual, holistic practice would allow them to heal the hole in their soul, to mend their broken spirit. And so I'm looking to get guests on who can carry some form of message or hope or practices or tools that you could use that would enhance your recovery holistically and spiritually. And my guest tonight, Pennie Wilson, is without doubt, I think, an expert in her field. And I don't mean to be all kind of casual, but it's really cool. I listened to her presentation earlier on. And when I first read her profile, I was very impressed. When I listened to her presentation earlier on this evening, again, I know I have the right person on the show today. So today I'm going to introduce you to Pennie Wilson, please.
Oh, Richard, thank you so much. That's an honor to be with you. And I do love that I have a unique story. I don't want to see myself as an expert better than anybody else, but my lived experience to me is better than any PhD or any other education that could ever be out there. So I think being in that place of having experienced it really gives me the opportunity to have compassion and empathize with people that are currently going through it.
I love that, and especially about podcasting. I know some podcasts have become very famous and they have big podcasts, but for the rest of us, I don't know if I have to change my language. I see us as being like nobodies who have the experience of life that become somebodies. Like we're not the gurus or whatever, but we have an experience of life, and we've recovered from our trauma or from our madness or our mood disorders or mood disturbances, to a place of serenity or serendipity or calmness. And we have something to offer, and we want to help the next person. I remember speaking to a pastor, and he said to me, when you start your podcasting and you start hosting people, let's imagine on your podcast with Pennie tonight, one person really takes to your podcast and loves what Pennie has to say, and they turn over a leaf and they find a reason to live, and they go on to have a wonderful life and get married and have children. And in 3 or 4 generations, one of their children create a cure for cancer or AIDS. No one will know that you and Pennie had a part to play in this. You won't get the accolades, you won't get the recognition, but God will know, and that's all that matters. And that's what makes me come back all the time. And so, Pennie, please dive into your program and tell us all about it, where you came from. The floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you. So my story began 20 years ago when I call it my momzilla stage. I was living from a place of fight or flight. And I do love that your program talks about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And that's really where I was. I felt like life was one constant emergency going from one thing to the next. I wasn't able to emotionally regulate myself. I didn't have any way to process emotions. That wasn't something I grew up with. I didn't know what boundaries were. I didn't know calm was even a thing, a goal, a thing that would help me. So having been through from that experience to now being able to regulate my emotions in real time, being able to show up in my relationships, being calm in conflict, the things that now empower me to feel embodiment as who I truly am, it's a beautiful opposition. So what happened 20 years ago when I was in that fight or flight place, I was led out to the garden in order to learn how to transform my mind. And what I recognized while my hands were in the soil, my knees were on the ground, I was able to learn the patterns of thinking that now shift me from darkness to light. And that's what the name of my book is, Transforming Mindsets from Darkness to Light. So being able to look at what are those paradigms of depression? What are the paradigms of automatically looking toward the problem? One of the images that came to me as a beautiful enlightenment was the image of clouds and sun. And it's now the foundation of my program. But just imagine that you're standing on the beach and you're looking over on the top right side in your imagination, you see the sun. And it's so warm and bright and it fills you with joy. And then over on the left side is this dark, deep storm turning, just like making you feel anxious and wondering about uncertainty and questioning all of the parts of who you are and why you matter. So this image came to mind not only as a way to help me organize my thoughts, because inside my mind, I was so confused. It was like there was a computer in my brain, but I had no way to organize it. And visually, this is what came to mind to help me separate the light from the darkness so that I could see that there is opposition. And I can actually take my thoughts and put it up on that map to say, is this thought a thought that's going to lead me more toward the light? Or is this thought going to lead me more toward the darkness, the fear, the uncertainty? So that was the first thing. And that really helped me begin to understand how to change the way that I think.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Yeah, I heard one recently, which was a case of that right now we're exactly where we're meant to be in the world. That we're halfway between the past and the future. And the past is over. It happened to somebody else. It's not our business today. And the future may never happen. It may be another world war. There might be an end of the world. I may not wake up in the morning. So all I have is this time now. And not just the 24 hours, but this 1 hour now is where my whole life is. Everything before this hour is gone. And I may not be around in an hour's time. So this 1 hour with Pennie and producing this podcast is where my whole life is, and that's it, and nothing more than that.
I love that. I love that, because truly in the present moment, that's where we have power. We could recognize the things that we've experienced in the past, and we can see them for what they are, and we can learn from them. One of the key things that the calm repatterning method teaches that I work with people, and the goal of this really is to empower them. I don't want to be the answer for them, but I hold space for them to find answers inside of themselves. So the idea is to teach them how to fish and not give them a fish, right?
Well, that's wonderful, because I think they've been in therapy for so long. But they need someone like yourself and myself, who we're not here to fix you or save you, but we're going to give you the tools yourself to go fishing for yourself. You know, we're not going to give you the fish, but we'll give you the rod. We'll tell you where to go and how to fish, and you do the fishing yourself. Yeah, I love that. That really sums up what the idea of new therapy is. We're not fixing anybody. We're empowering them to fix themselves.
Yeah. And especially in your scope where you talk about the mass problem of mental health and what's going on, I kind of see it as, you know, I don't know whether the right word is epidemic, but the big crisis that's happening. So many millions of people need help. And in my imagination, if we were to take a ratio of every therapist currently, or coach, or whoever is available to help someone, to the ratio of the number of people that need help, there are months and months of waiting list currently for people that cannot access help. And those are just the people that are asking. So I feel like teaching people how to fish is the answer, because as we each take responsibility for what we can do for ourselves, it starts this ripple effect. I can change myself and I can lift others. And then, just like you were saying with your vision of impact, it impacts your family next. And then it can impact your work and those people in your community. And it just keeps going out. So I love that Gandhi framing of be the change you wish to see in the world.
So now tell me about your calm. I love it.
Yes.
I love being at peace, because I've got a racing mind. When I'm first of meditation, my mind, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't get calm. I thought I could never meditate. And then this pastor said to me, meditate on prayer. Pick something to meditate on.
Yes,
but I want to hear about calm, because I want to be a better meditator and peaceful person.
Yeah. So going back to that image of the sun and the clouds, you can see sun as the desired result, your desired outcome. What's going to bring you joy and fulfillment and happiness? What is it in your heart that you want? But so many times when we're in that place of looking at the clouds, it feels like we can't actually have what we want. So first thing is to recognize, how are you seeing yourself? Are you seeing yourself as broken, as unlovable, as not enough? Like recognizing what are the beliefs. And I use an image of a tree. I call it the kokoro tree. And it symbolizes how we can work through things in our mind. First are the branches that represent circumstances. What happens? It changes over time. Recognizing the circumstances in your outside life, you can't necessarily change them, but you can notice them and observe them to see, how do I feel about them? So then down in the trunk of the tree is the emotions. How am I feeling about those circumstances? And like you say, your past self is that part of you that experienced that trauma. We can observe our experience as if we're in what one of the books I love calls a seat of awareness. And we can watch it on the movie screen of our mind to notice, how does that person that's experiencing that situation feel about this? So just really tuning in, and we can feel those things in our body. And this is a deliberate choice, just like the picture of the sun and the clouds. In the visual that I teach from, it has a river that pulls downward automatically like gravity toward the clouds. And it also has a staircase that you can walk upward toward the light, one step at a time. That is an intentional choice. When you decide to recognize your emotions, you claim the power of being aware of who you are and recognizing what you feel and claiming that power in the present moment. So that's where our power is, recognizing I can't change the things of the past, but I can change how I feel about them. I can change how I see them. And then down in the roots is the beliefs, like we were talking about earlier. How do you see yourself as a person? What is your identity? Do you see yourself as incapable? And usually that's all buried down in the subconscious and we don't recognize. So that's where this awareness tree comes into fruition, as we sit by the tree to notice what's happening and let that flow through us to help us to recognize what we feel, what we think, and what we believe, so that we can use this picture of the clouds and the sun to first look at, what are we focused on? Are we focused on the clouds? Are we focused on what we don't like? Are we asking questions in our mind, what's wrong with me? The brain has such amazing power. It's like the soil, like I learned in my garden. The soil doesn't care what seed you plant. If you plant a poison, if you plant a vegetable, it's going to return to you whatever you choose to plant. So you are the creator. You get to choose what thoughts you plant in your mind, and then it's going to come back to you. So when you ask a question, what's wrong with me? That's going to return the answers to your mind of what's wrong with me. And then you shift that over to the sun. What's right with me? What's good about me? Why am I lovable? And then that's going to return the answers for you to change what you believe about yourself.
That's powerful. Again, I think it's very much like the Christian practice of understanding that our prayers aren't what we learned in school or in church or at our mother's knee. Our prayers are the things we say to ourselves all day long. Mm-hmm. So if we're saying, I'm depressed, I don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, I don't have a husband or wife, I don't have a house, I can't get a job, no one likes me. That's where we're sowing the seeds in the soil. That's where we get back tenfold. God doesn't do feelings. He gave us a book of instructions and free will. And if we're choosing to feel shite, he assumes that's what Pennie wants. That's what I'll give it to him. Mm-hmm. So we have to find a way of, I tell clients that you say, up until this morning, I felt depressed. Up until this morning, I felt like life was worthless. Mm-hmm. But in this moment, after listening to Pennie chatting on about calm, I'm deciding I'm going to sow new seeds. I'm sowing seeds of happiness, joy, peace, and serenity. Amen. Mm-hmm. And that's a new prayer. And say that prayer 10, 20, 30 times a day, every day for 30 days. And by day 10, suddenly you'll find those seeds will start sprouting.
Yes, that is beautiful. And I love that because it's pointing your mind toward the sun. What do you want to experience? Because when people get stuck in that cycle of trauma and depression, their minds are constantly focused on the clouds and they don't shift to recognize what they want. So that's really where the core of the calm repatterning method comes in, is we teach a framework of the 4 R's. And if you took the 12-step program with AA and boiled it down to its bare bones, these 4 things is what would come out. Okay. So the first thing is to recognize, and that's why I use that Kokoro tree. What are you experiencing? What's going on? What are the thoughts, feelings, and emotions and beliefs? The second R is remove. What do you want to let go of? Do you want to let go of the identity of I am depressed? Anytime you use the word I am, you're claiming it as a part of who you are. And what do you want to shift that for? So after you figure out what you want to remove, the third thing is to see what you want to replace it with. And this is the magical question.
Cool.
Yeah. What do you want to experience instead? And for someone for the first time that has been looking at the clouds so much, this becomes a difficult question. It's hard to look at what you want because there's all those fears of, I'm a failure, I can't have what I want, people don't believe in me, I'm not lovable. So looking toward that, what do I want instead, becomes a very difficult question. And that's where I help people shift from recognizing what they don't want into what you do want, because I believe each person has a purpose on this planet. There's seeds of greatness planted inside of us, and there's something each of us that are born to do to make the world a better place. And that's what I love to nurture those seeds of who you truly are. So after you recognize, remove, replace, the fourth art is to reimagine. And this is where the magic of the brain really comes in. High-level athletes often use mental practice to visualize what they want to do in performance. And this is the same thing. It's employing the mind in a way where you are focusing on your desired outcome. You were talking about affirmations or that prayer that you have in your heart. Sometimes when we just look toward the sun without first removing and recognizing what we don't want, it feels like a fake story.
Yes.
It almost feels like a lie to our brain, right? So after the first three, then it becomes powerful to reimagine, what do I want to see? And seeing yourself in that movie, to add all of your five senses, what you see, what you hear, taste, smell, touch, and feel with your body. When you allow those emotions to come into your body, that is where it truly changes your state of being.
Brilliant. I have to say that I'm in 12-step recovery myself. I'm in more than one 12-step group in recovery, 38 years. I love your 4 R's. They are different than the 12 steps, because in 12-step recovery, we're not meant to claim what we want, because that's selfish. So I love your practice, where after you recognize and you clean house, then you're allowed to see what you want. That's a fantastic idea. It's missing in the 12 steps. 12 steps is about you recognize, you clean house, you make amends,
Yes.
and then you carry the message.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of you decide what you want and then you use your imagination to achieve it, that's phenomenal. I mean, I love that. I heard a thing called dream prayer. And it says that whatever you want, you have to imagine you have it already to get it.
Yes.
No point wishful thinking, I want it in 10 years' time. You say, oh, I already have it already. Already, I'm a successful podcast host.
Yeah.
I've got the best guests on my show. You keep repeating this every day, and suddenly you get the best guests coming on your show, and you don't know what's happening, and you've got a strong following and all this kind of stuff. And so you have to speak as though it's happened already. So
Yes.
that fourth R of yours is wonderful. And again, allow yourself. We know that we can go to a place of infinite, when we're disassociating as a child, we can go to the most beautiful place to be safe. There could be carnage around us. We can go to, for me, it was John Wayne and Clint Eastwood as a cowboy and a horse, killing the Indians, and, beat the baddies. And I go there and I feel really safe in that place in the back of a horse. Never rode a horse in my life. I did once, I got thrown. So, but in this movie, in my mind, I can ride a horse, and all that kind of stuff, and should have gone.
Nice.
As a child, it was really great. And science fiction, I was a big science fiction fan, so I grew up and be going amongst the stars. But you could dream a dream, and it would be a great safe place to go to. So what we're saying now is dream that dream again, but dream the dream of what you want in your life as having had it already. So you have perfect calm and peace in your life. You've got rid of your trauma. You're okay. You've forgiven everybody. You've forgiven yourself. You love yourself. You've got empty for yourself. You're having a great life. You've been offered a job. You've been asked out on a date. Imagine it's happened already, and say this to you again, over and over again. Have the same dream. You've been asked out for a date. You've been asked out for a date, and suddenly, 30 days later, someone will say, "Pennie, do you want to go out for a date?" Be careful what you wish for. It might be the wrong person, but if you do this properly, it'll start happening for you. And that's what I love about your program. I love the analogy of the sun. Anytime we stop and we turn our face up to the sun, we feel the heat of the sun on our face. It is a wonderful feeling. When you're feeling down, you go outside and you put your face up and you feel the sun and the heat on your face. It's the most wonderful, like a cleansing, where like it's cleansing your whole body. I think it's fantastic that the sun and the clouds. Let's continue. More calm, please. More calm.
So one of the other things, as you were talking, I was thinking about sometimes when people imagine what they want to create, like we mentioned a moment ago, it feels fake. One of the things that it helps to recognize what actually programs the mind. There are three core elements across any modality, across any teaching style, any book, it doesn't matter what it is, that's actually creating a program in your mind. And if you think about advertising, they do this amazingly, right? So the three key things are words, emotions, and images. And that's why that image was so powerful to me. It helped me to open up the emotions and to see the words. And it creates a portal that we can actually create programs in our mind of what we want to create. So knowing what those three things are when we're in that calm meditative state, then it becomes a matter of recognizing you've let go of the clouds, you're focusing on the sun. What are the words? What are the images? So you're adding those three like painted colors inside of your experience. You're looking at what do I want to experience? And it helps to be specific and clear with one, I call it a victory moment, one moment of what it might look like for you in the future to experience the fruit, the joy. What do you want to create? What is that person that's going to be able to create it? One of the things I imagine often is a physical event where I am a presenter. I'm singing, dancing, creating transformational experiences with the group, and we're all celebrating. I'm celebrating that they have each attained a victory. And we're going through this dance in my mind, and I'm imagining like we're moving together. So movement is very powerful too in that experience. So
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
Seeing,
fantastic. Yeah. Because you think of calm as not having any movement. But I tell my folks that when it comes to the breath, we should melodial sigh and singing or humming, laughing, yawning, and coughing. Coughing, get out of get rid of the stress in your body. Yawning for the anxiety. Laughing for like a victory, like that, a victory, you know. And then the sigh is just music for the soul. And all these kind of things are really beneficial. Don't feel as though because you're not trained or you've been diagnosed as having a mental disorder or misdiagnosed. Don't think you don't have it within you to achieve some sense of calm. You can use your voice. You can use singing and dancing. You can just change your clothes from wearing black. You're going to start wearing white or cream. Just put a bit of color into it. You know, this kind of stuff. There's little things you can do that will transform. Keep going there, Pennie.
I love that you bring up that people in that place of looking in the clouds, they don't believe that they can do it. I remember feeling that way. I remember seeing this great big vision of this thing that I wanted to achieve. And it felt so huge and so impossible. And the automatic thought in the clouds is, I could never do that. Right? So imagine standing at the bottom of the stairs that's walking in a staircase up toward the sun. And every step you take gives you more strength to take the next step. You're becoming every single choice you make. So imagine that person that's at the top of the stairs. That could be someone that you imagine as your future self, who you're becoming. Imagine them in your mind and see what they look like. See what their character's like. See what it looks like to look into their eyes and feel their presence. And you're becoming that person every step you take up to that stairs. That's why I call it mental fitness, because literally you're increasing your strength with every choice that you make.
Something I do personally, it might be good for your clients, I'm not too sure, is I imagine that I love the idea that there are all these dimensions, you know, we're in the third dimension. And this as a Christian, you're not meant to think these thoughts, but I do. I think that there are all these multiple dimensions, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we're in each one of these dimensions all around the universe, whatever, okay? But in all the other dimensions, they've already achieved, they've climbed the steps and they're up at the top. You know, they're that future aspect of ourselves. So I go to I remember a place in my childhood near where I lived was a kind of a hill, and I go up that hill in my imagination, and I get to the top and I look over the hill and I see all these other dimensions all around me. And in all these dimensions, what I wanted is actually happened here and nearly happened there, and they're further along. And that gives me a kind of incentive to realize that it's happened already. All I need to do is align myself with that. So when I do with your practice, I want to recognize, then reclaim, fix, and then look at the imagining and imagine the 10th dimension in my third dimension, the 5th dimension in my third dimension, and just keep seeing this over and over again, that it has happened already on God's line, on God's clock, whatever it says, it's happened already. It's a case of just my humanness has blocked me from it happening as a reality. And I need to do my work on my side to get it to happen.
Exactly. Yes. We're in this physical body and this mortal perspective, and it's super hard to see anything outside of this moment and this lifetime, but it's definitely fun to imagine possibilities of what else could be possible.
Pennie, I'm enjoying this conversation. I know you're on a clock and you've got to go at some stage. Would you share with the audience 3 things that you'd recommend, both for one for calm, one for when you feel as though you're not good enough and you can't get out of it? Are there 3 things you could share with people that they could put into action today that would help them to get on that first step?
Yeah. So one of the things that I love is my brain thinks through strategy. I'm able to look back on my journey and see my 20 years ago, what it looked like as my Momzilla stage and what would help me in that place. When I was in the beginning of learning to emotionally regulate, the first thing that I needed to do was to choose calm. But I had all these past habits and past patterns. And what do I do with that? Because I keep reacting, just like an addict keeps going back to the thing, right? Numbing and soothing and whatever that looks like. I was addicted to anger. And it made me feel powerful and in control, but it was all a lie. The truth is that I could only choose to control myself. And the more I choose that control, the more that power expands. So the first thing I needed to learn to do was to get calm. And claiming the power of the breath is the most powerful thing that you can do in that moment. So first of all, you decide. You decide you're going to not react. You decide you're not going to go back in the past. You choose to, like a phoenix, burn down the past and decide in the present moment, I'm going to take this one next step. No matter what happens later, I'm today going to choose this one next step. I love a podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman from the Harvard Institute. He's a teacher there for Harvard College, and he teaches the power of the breath and what it does physiologically in your body. It slows down your heart rate. And I love that it's a voluntary response as also an involuntary response. Breath is always there to support us, doing its thing without us recognizing it. But we can tune in at any moment to choose to regulate our breath. And when we intentionally choose that, we claim the power in that moment. So simply get to a place where you can be alone if possible. If you're driving, that's fine. Focus on one fixed point as you safely drive and take 3 deep letting go breaths. Just simply breathe in, claim the power of your breath, breathe in really big. And imagine that there's a waterfall of light flowing in through the top of your head, all the way through your body and out through the bottoms of your feet. It's bringing in the sun. It's removing the clouds. And take another deep breath, bringing in what you desire, removing anxiety, removing stress, removing all the tension. And just imagine that someone's pushed pause on the clock of time, and you can be physically present in your body. Take a deep breath in, breathing in. Imagine that waterfall of light, breathing out, and say to yourself, I am calm. I am safe. I choose to be here in my body, here in the present moment. And that's where your power is. Simply breathe and choose to be calm.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I have to say one thing. For people in the audience who are coming from a place of stress and depression and despair and anxiety, in the beginning of choosing calm, I know there could be a case of self-restraint, passive aggressiveness, people pleasing, not reacting when you want to react, and denying your right to feel by trying to stop yourself from reacting. Mm-hmm. And can you kind of reaffirm them that it's okay? Like, it's okay not to do this properly. It's okay to just, if you have to be passive aggressive and shut down and you're going crazy inside, but outside you got a face of being calm. This is new to you. It's going to be challenging. It's okay not to do it perfect the first time. Okay, it may take you months or years to be like Pennie, where you're breathing in the sun to your nose and you're exhaling the clouds to your mouth, or it might take you only a moment. But if you're having a hard time, don't beat yourself up. You might find yourself, maybe it's your parents or someone in your family who irritates your nose to press your buttons. And that moment they're trying to press your buttons and you're just trying to practice self-restraint and not responding. Because if you respond, it's the end of the world. Like that's what they want. They want to fight. So you have to practice self-restraint. And you may be suppressing your right to have a voice. You may be suppressing your right to say no, and not have healthy boundaries and so on. It's okay for the learning of the calm. It's okay for you to allow yourself, and this phrase this correctly. I'm not saying it's okay to be passive aggressive or kind of let people walk all over you with regard to other people. But you're practicing a whole new practice, and it's going to take time and energy. And if you're not speaking with Pennie directly, and you have to do this on your own, you may find yourself practicing self-restraint, where like you've got your fist clenched and your stomach's tied up in a knot, and you're just kind of going, don't react, calm, be calm. And you're saying be calm, but you sound like you're going to blow up,
Right? Yes, I remember that feeling. Yeah, and I do have an added way that people can have compassion for that, what I call the messy middle. You're in between that old identity and the new identity. You're climbing up those stairs. It takes effort and work, and you are going to mess up. Just imagine like a pianist or a violinist or someone that's doing a new sport. They don't have any experience in the past. They haven't done this before. And they say it takes 10,000 hours to master a new skill, right? So imagine that you are an Olympian athlete in training, or whatever it is that you can relate to. You're a cowboy and you're becoming that one that can have all of those awesome experiences with horses. There was a book called Little Britches that I have in my mind of him doing this dancing horsing. Anyway, so recognize that it's going to take time. It's going to take those 10,000 hours. And there's a state where it goes through a progression, a sequence of growth stages. So first, you are unconscious and unaware. You have no idea what your behavior is. You don't know how it's affecting other people. And then you have an awakening. You get to a place where you are aware, but you still unconsciously have that reaction behavior, right? And then as you continue to practice, baby step at a time up the stairs, you become aware and more conscious to get to that place of really choosing what you want to do. And that's what that visualization is going to do. Imagine the old way, recognize it, remove it, burn it down in your mind. Use some kind of tool to shoot it out into outer space, smash it with a big hammer, do something to destroy that old way of being, and then visualize the new way that you want to do it and keep imagining it over and over again. So, and then eventually, as you keep on practicing going up in 5,000 hours and 7,000 hours, by the time you get to 10,000 hours, you are automatically responding in the way that you want to respond. It becomes unconscious and aware. So it's going through the whole spectrum of being patient, compassionate with yourself, to allow yourself to be seen, making mistakes, keep going, and letting go of the shame. The shame is really what keeps us in those old patterns of being that critical mind, that you did it wrong and you can't do anything right. Let go of that voice of criticism and say, I'm doing the best that I can. I can do this. I'm taking one step at a time.
And one last thing I've got to say at this point, I think it's like playing golf. I mean, 10,000 hours means you're Tiger Woods. I have no desire to be at the level of Tiger Woods. I want to be an amateur golfer who plays up at 16, gets loads of shots, and have a good hole. So again, it may only be 100 hours for me. It may only be 20 hours for me. Don't think that it's out of your reach. 10,000 hours is too much. But what Pennie's saying is correct. To change an old behavior, we have to change it with a new behavior. They say it's 66 times you got to repeat it. That's probably 10,000 hours. But you have to find some way of replacing an old behavior with new behavior. So don't think it's like 10,000 hours, which is like about 4 years. Don't worry about 4 years. You're not looking to become Tiger Woods. You're looking to become a high handicapper, even 24 handicapper, like you're getting 24 shots in a game of golf. and you might hit one good shot, but you're enjoying it with your friends. What you're striving for will be a lot less than 10,000, but you keep at it over the years. And even though you don't want to be at 10,000 Tiger Wood, what will happen is you reach the level you want to be at where you're fine, you're able to practice calm. And it may be at 1 hour, maybe at 5 hours, or maybe at 3 days. You'll get to that space where you'll feel, but you'll keep practicing. And because you're practicing in the background without thinking about it, one day, maybe when you're 10 years' time, you look back and kind of go, oh my God, I'm an expert. Like, you didn't plan to be an expert, George. All you want to do is get calm. But so you just keep at this. We've worked hard at making depression and anxiety superpowers in our lives. They function as superpowers. Again, we put the same amount of hours into being calm, being loving, being tolerant, looking for the sun, feeling the sun on our face, and being in the clouds. It takes time, but it doesn't have to take all the time. You'll achieve this calm much sooner than you think. I'm able to meditate today. I swore I couldn't meditate. Now I meditate on scripture. I pick a piece of scripture I really like, and I meditate on those words and what they mean to me. And it gives me peace, and I'm able to settle down. So don't think you have to be an expert. And again, Pennie and I spoke before. We're not experts. We're sharing from experience and how we help people. And we have helped people, and we want to help you too. So, Pennie, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being on. If I can have you on again, I'll find an excuse to have you on again, because it was wonderful.
Sure, I would love that.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to turn off the recorder. Thank you very much. Say goodbye to the audience, please.
Goodbye. It's so good to be able to be with you. And if you're looking for a way to connect, you can reach me on my website at kokorocreators.com. It's KOKORO creators.com.
And I'll have all the information on the page when I post this episode. Thank you all very much.